because it rains so much. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Everybody needs to subscribe because Mark here, he asks really good questions.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again.
That's not good.
So that's when I say, okay, you need to really learn how to do it right.
Nowhere, actually.
Scattered.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
1 second.
Yes, we need to.
How's it going, baby? How you living?
She still hasn't got any elephants, so it's a win-win so far.
I want to be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
Drop down, oh my, oh, you baby child, oh, you do this to me, oh my, oh my. Every night on a summer day, what you say? Is it also right? Is it also right? Tattooed arms with the radio, all we got. Is it also right? Is it also right?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington, and thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday, the 17th of November, 2021. And I want to say a special thank you to Beatrice Mariano, who was my guest this past Sunday, Shuya Chang, who was my guest on Saturday, and Mo Brings Plenty from Yellowstone last Monday. Enjoyed talking with all of them. And if I do have some things in the works for upcoming live stream interviews. One of them actually was in the process of being solidified today. So if you'd like to know more about what I have coming up, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could hit the subscribe button, I'll greatly appreciate that. And if you'd like to know what I have coming up, you can also hit that little notification bell. Please be aware that we'll send emails to your inbox. And if you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that is also appreciated. So a lot of appreciation going on. Been really, really thankful for all of the things that I've been able to do this year, from all of the live streams. Obviously, I'm in a new location now, so this is around maybe my fourth live stream interview from this location. I'm now starting to go back to in-person events. I was just at one last night, and I've been at 2 others, and I've got another one coming up this Saturday. So there's starting to be this whole shift and transition of live streams and in person. So it's really exciting to have both mediums working for me. And obviously it's been great being back in person events in a safe capacity. So I'm looking forward to covering more things in the future. And so let's kind of get to tonight's interview. Tonight, if you're here in America, at least. My guest today is a talented music artist based in Los Angeles. Her latest single is called Drop Down. We saw or heard a little bit of that. She just performed a live set at the Mint last night, so I definitely want to hear about that. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Alexia Rev.
Hi everyone from everywhere. Nice to be here right now.
Awesome. How are you doing, Alexia?
I'm great. Feeling good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm finding out that by being back at live events, it kind of recharges me again. And as you would know from being on stage last night. So
that's how I feel.
We'll definitely get into that. And hi, Ove, good to see you in Norway. Really like my new place. Okay, well, yeah, it's working out pretty good for me. So it was kind of stressful for that month or so when I was having to do the big move from my old place of 24 years to where I'm at now. But
oh wow.
Yeah, so I did a lot of purging because I actually had a downside. So a lot of things are no longer here with me, but that's okay. It's been a new start. And so Alexia, let's jump into your show last night.
Yes.
Was this your first time back on stage since the pandemic started? What was the whole feeling and emotions like for you? Tell me everything.
Yes, so it was my first show really ever in LA. I played like one small show in New York, but this was like my first show really because I like started releasing music during COVID. Like I really was songwriting before that. So it was my first show and it was just I grew up as a ballerina dancer, so I like loved being on stage, and just I was like, okay, this is the present that artists get, for doing all the hard work is actually performing. You know, it was so fun. I just loved it. And I just want to do it all the time.
Well, I'm very happy for you that you got a chance to
Thank
be
you.
out there and make that connection with a live
Mhm.
audience in front of you. And like you said, that's really what it's all about, is that
Mhm.
connection that you can't replace when you're actually in the same room with people listening and appreciating your music, and that exchange of energy back and forth and everything else. So I love the fact that you got a chance to perform your music live. And how many rehearsals and things did you do to prep for this show?
Yeah, so a lot. We probably did 7 to 8 rehearsals just because I had to assemble a band like with different people from different contacts and they didn't know each other. And so they had to, build chemistry with each other. They had to learn 8 new songs that they've never listened to or, really. And I'm just like a stickler, like I'm a perfectionist. So I was like, we're just doing it. Like everything needs to be perfect. They did so well. It was so much fun working with them. Yeah, everything was just like kind of seamless. Our chemistry was really good. And, we had a female drummer, a female guitar player, and the bass was this guy who's amazing. So it was like cool to have like female power there too. It was really cool. So yeah, it was really fun. So lots of rehearsals, but totally worth it.
Okay, that's awesome. It sounds like you got the right musicians then backing you for that gig, because if you did all the rehearsals and things really went really well, it sounds like. So like it was the right pieces were in place.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Okay, and you mentioned 8 songs that those musicians didn't know. So were those all 8 original songs of yours? Did you do any cover songs?
Wait, so actually it was 7 songs. So it was 7. So it was 7 songs. 6 were original. 1 was a cover. It was Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, but all original songs. Yeah.
Okay, and just for yourself, when you think
Mhm.
back to last night and the songs that you played in your set list, was there any particular song or performance that really seemed to kind of get to you? Like this one was like my favorite one out of all of them that you did.
Yeah, it's so funny. Everything happens so quickly. I wish I could like stay in each song longer because that's a great question. But I think honestly, Crazy was so fun to perform. Um, just it sits in my voice so well. The cover we did, and then also this song that's really slow and really emotional that I wrote called "Save Me Now." The audience seemed to like love it, and I also felt super connected to the words, and so that was really nice as well to do. And Drop Down, my newest release, it's always so fun to do also. But Crazy was like so fun. I think it was my favorite to sing.
Okay, and I totally know what you mean, that you wish you could stay, with every song when you're playing them, because I'm a musician myself, so I know sometimes, especially when
Mhm.
things are going well, you're kind of like, this one's working so well, and these parts are,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, now we're into the next one. Oh, can we keep do a few more
Yeah.
bars of this and everything? So
Yeah.
that's one of the best feelings in the world, when things are just clicking, and
Exactly.
you don't want it to end. And so if you can kind of get some background, like you mentioned, with Drop Down being the latest single that's out right now, well, kind of 2 parts. What is your songwriting process like particularly for that song? And then also, how did
Mhm.
you record and get everything together so that eventually it was ready for release?
Yeah, so my songwriting process is a little bit interesting. I like play piano, but not amazingly. Like I play chords and stuff, so it's more like an accompaniment kind of thing rather than like I'm naturally drawn to my piano to play. I like for Drop Down, I remember a lot of my like melodies, like I'm very melody driven. I think I was like walking my dog and I was like humming something and I immediately got my voice notes, which is like the most important thing for a songwriter ever, like on my iPhone. And I came up with a drop down, oh my, oh, you baby child, and it just like came out of me. And then I kind of like, I had this chorus and I came to LA to work with a producer, and I went to his place and I sang it, and then he created the beat to it, and the beat came, and then I just did the verse. But I'm definitely more melodically driven first and then lyrics. But usually have like obviously some sort of concept after I said drop down you baby child, that I was like, I'm angry, like and then I imagine these like housewives throwing TVs, throwing like about like men that broke their hearts, and just like this, like women from different eras. And it just spoke to me and my experience as well of like dating in New York and just generally.
Okay, interesting. And
Mhm.
there's different pieces there that I'd like to unpack.
Sure.
You mentioned that you're melody driven. So
Mhm.
can you put a finger on where do you feel that comes from? Is that something from way like when you're a young kid, when you're doing ballet or something, or just the music that you're around, or like a combination of things?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think one, for me, since I grew up dancing, nothing had words. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was classical music, and it made me feel like anything that made me like move or feel was good music. Like, it didn't need to have words. And when I was listening to hip hop, or I would feel something like a deep beat. Everything has like your head bops. Like, that was so important to me. Like when your head bops, or like when you feel something in your body. So I think for me, like, yes, lyrics are super important, since I've grown up writing poetry and stuff. I think me being melodically driven is just how I relate to music myself, and how I want to make people feel is through my melody first. Obviously, lyrics, I'm a good lyricist, that will come, and that's a marriage. But for me, like when I hear a good melody, like I won't listen to a song if it has the most beautiful lyrics in the world. Like, I can appreciate it, but it's not something I will listen to.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense when you're talking about when you're studying ballet and having classical music pieces that you're working with, and also that it needs to be something that really resonates with you. It sounds like before you go to anything else, um, like you're saying, the melody is really, really the most important thing, and then you build off of that. If you don't have the melody, then it's kind of like, well, I just move on to the next thing until I find the melody that
Yeah,
works.
exactly.
Okay, um, and and we're definitely going to go back to your ballet background too, because I actually cover the Pacific Northwest Ballet here. So
Oh, amazing. Yeah, they're incredible.
I have a ballet thing. So we'll go on that tangent in a second, but I want to stay with your music career. So when did you decide that you really wanted to start working on music for yourself? When did this whole process start?
Yeah, so when I quit ballet, I was around 17. I was really lost. And I've always been like singing, like always, and writing poetry. And what happened was my friend was a songwriter, and I was like, this is cool. Like, I didn't even know that was an option for me. And so I kind of started studying music, playing piano, just like teaching myself, music theory, how things flow in a pop song. I would listen to podcasts, like just really studying the artists I love and how the structure of music sounds. So I would say, okay, there's always a verse, there's always in pop music a pre-chorus, a chorus, a bridge, da da da. And I started being really structured in that sense. And I started writing music. I wrote my first song just like in my head. I came up with a tune, and I don't know, like I feel like I just felt it. And it was about, I was going through a really hard time with my depression, and I wrote a song, and I was just like, this is good. Like, I feel like this could be on the radio. But I didn't do anything because I didn't know that was an option for me. I was in college. I was going to pursue being a psychologist because I was like really, I can songwrite for a living, you know, I can be an artist for a living. And so I kept writing music, and I did it for myself mostly, just for an outlet of creativity. And then it really got more serious right before COVID, when I just stopped putting pressure on myself. And then I got really good at writing music, weirdly. And I wrote a couple songs, and my friend's like, you have to do this. Like, you can't just sit on your potential. And I was like, oh my God, I can't sit on my potential, because that's my biggest fear in life, is like not living up to my potential. And yeah, and then I just kind of, the second I stopped trying to make things that people would love, the better my music became. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how it started. It started with just curiosity, and then evolved into like, wow, I'm good at this. And then I shouldn't do this, because will I make money? And then my friends being like, you need to do this. And then here I am.
Well, that's awesome, because, you know, one thing I really like what you said is that once you stopped kind of like putting pressure on yourself, or perhaps trying to please other people, things organically start getting better. What's coming out of you was like, this is probably like a good representation of yourself. And that's when you start getting to the good stuff as an artist. Because it's like, this is what you're trying to represent to people. And also that you had some supportive friends that said, yeah, don't keep this in your closet, you know, get this out to the world so other people can enjoy it, including someone like myself. So that's awesome that this is kind of like the beginning seeds then of your musical journey then. So you've got the sky's really the limit then of wherever you decide to go with it. Oh, wow. Okay. And forgive me, I have kind of a random mind, so sometimes it kind of bounces around from all.
No worries. Me too.
I'm curious when you said, or not when you said, but because of your ballet background, and now you've been pursuing music and expression as an artist, do you ever see, or maybe you've already been doing it, where you're going to be melding, not necessarily ballet, but dance into music?
Listen, I am not that great at like hip hop things like that, can like, and I haven't done ballet in so long because I had injuries. But if anyone comes to my show, you will see I like to move around. So yes, I think definitely I like love dancing. So when I perform, I definitely dance. I mean, yes. So the answer is yes, but definitely not classical, and definitely not like contemporary or actually like dancing, but like grooving and choreography and stuff. Yes. Very important to me, actually.
Okay, yes. I mean, it just seemed to make sense to me that I could picture you, even like if you have a hand in doing choreography, like for a music video for one of your songs, it would make perfect sense to me, since you have the background to at least do that part of it. Maybe someone else was doing the dancing or whatever, but you're the one dictating, like, this is what I want to see.
For sure.
Okay, yeah, I love artistic people that have their hands in multiple disciplines, and most artists do. But when I find out distinctly that somebody does, it's like, okay, this is great. And you mentioned that with your dance that you had gone through some injuries, and then that's what kind of you're kind of lost for a bit, trying to figure out, now what do I do next, and then you just kind of went into the music path. How is, for many people, many musicians, you know, music's been something that has really gotten them through a lot of incredibly difficult times, myself included. And you also mentioned in some things that you were saying previously that you're going through some depression at one point, and that was something that helped kind of through maybe perhaps through music and some other kind of outlets kind of got you into a better place. Do you see that music is doing that? Is that kind of, I guess, is that an intention? So do you feel like you have, maybe you already have a song written, or you have something in the future that you want to write that's going to address those issues, and how you found ways to overcome and cope?
Yeah, so I think the answer of how music helps me in general with coping with difficulties in my life is, I was going through a really rough patch of identity crisis when I quit ballet. I had a severe eating disorder for years and years, and I didn't recover until I started writing music. And for me, it's just, I think it's so intertwined with when you're not doing your life's purpose or something that's going to fill you up, you're going to find other ways, other coping mechanisms to try to fill you up, or you're just not going to like be the light that you can be. And for me, music was a saving grace for me because it was finally like I was living my life's purpose. And I think this could be related to if someone was really loving writing, writing novels, and they were going to school to be a doctor, but they didn't love that. And then, it could be with anything, a chef, or, if you don't really follow your heart, I do think you're going to have difficulties in your mental health, and you're going to use other things to cope. So for me, music saved me because for me, music is my calling. It's my love. It's the way I breathe. It's the happiest I've ever been and the more me I've ever been. And in terms of songs that are going to address difficult times, yeah, I wrote this song. I had a really hard time moving to LA called LA Lonely. And it talks about my really big struggles when I first moved to LA, how difficult it felt to be alone, and how separated I felt from everyone. So there's like a couple songs that do address my really big hardships in terms of mental health. But yeah, I think it's universal when you have something that's your passion and you don't follow it, whether it's as a hobby, you can follow it as your hobby, or you're gonna have a void. It's just that.
What you said is very true. I can attest to that. And there's always going to be different factors for at least the path that I've chosen. And I'm so grateful that I get a chance to talk to artists from all over the world. And that happened, started around 10 years ago. But I've always been into music, writing, photography, live events of all types of artistic types. And this whole thing, the fact that it kind of came together the way that it did is pretty mind-blowing to me. And I don't mean that in some sort of like egotistical way. It just means like sometimes I have to pinch myself. I can't believe some of the stuff's happened. And I'm so grateful for those opportunities. And you're right. If there's something that you're passionate in your life, whatever that happens to be, if you're not, utilizing that pretty much and working with that every day on some level, it's really going to like deplete you. And your soul becomes emptier. And then it's kind of like, well, what's your purpose then? And everybody has, you have to pay bills, and I'm not saying that at all, but you have to have those other pieces with it. Don't just abandon it because you have to do this. Yeah, I'm in.
Well, that's why I said like the hobby, like even having it as a hobby or doing it. If you love to play guitar, you don't have to be a guitarist or a band, but maybe you can be a band on the side or play guitar every day. I just think it's super important, and people abandon their hobbies even, or their loves, or things that fill them up. But for me, it's like I can't imagine myself doing any other career at this point.
Okay, and since you mentioned that, like last night, you had 6 songs of your own and 1 cover song, are you just putting out songs as they feel ready in terms of the singles, or you're trying to get them all together for like an album release? What are we kind of looking at here?
Yeah, so my plan is to release about 3 to 4, maybe 3 more songs, and then create an EP. So the next song I am releasing, it's got backed up because there was like an issue with mixing. So it's going to be releasing in January. It's actually a co-release with another artist from Seattle, which is cool. Their name is Samara Lennox. So that's going to be super fun. And then I just plan on releasing like every 6 weeks, like pretty like rigidly. And then you will see it's going to be very eclectic. You're going to be very surprised by the differences in terms of tone, which I think after a while, my fans will not be surprised because they'll see that like that's just me. Like I write all kinds of different music.
Well, that's awesome because obviously, being eclectic arts that I am, I love different styles of music, and when artists don't pigeonhole themselves into one style,
Yeah.
I like it even more. So, and
Mhm.
I want to say hi to Captain Blackwood down in Las Vegas, who's joining us right now. So, Alex, hopefully you're doing well and having a good night down there in Sin City. And Alexia, I'm curious too, as you were saying that you kind of were learning how to write songs and be a musician and studying and looking things up. Where did your voice come from? Is that natural? Did you do any kind of voice lessons? Because you have a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you. So when I was little, I was doing like musical theater. So I did a few voice lessons. This is like when I was like 8. And then I have done like, I think I've done like 6 voice lessons in my life. So not a lot, but I'm like a stickler about pitch. So I just like look up stuff on YouTube as well.
Okay, and for like the show last night, I mean, do you have vocal warm ups or anything? Are you drinking tea and honey and all that, or what are you doing?
Oh my God, totally. So I brought a bottle of honey on stage and I was just like, it helps so much. It's like creepy how much it helps. I have like really bad anxiety with like not reaching certain pitches. Like just like I'm sorry, like I'm not like calling out artists, but like for me, like having a good like being on pitch is so important. So I mean, I was just so nervous. I was drinking so much water. I put like apple cider vinegar. It's supposed to help. Doing my straw exercises. Not talking a lot the day of, which is really hard for me. Just like hydration, honey. Like it was. I'm crazy. I really lose my voice really quickly. So because I just like have a little raspier voice, which is something I need to work on. Maybe that's my vocal coach actually. But
Okay, so you're doing like every precaution you could to be ready and to keep your voice in shape, and
oh
like
yeah,
you said, making sure that you hit the right correct pitch because it would drive you personally nuts if you weren't.
I would cry after a performance. I hit like one note that was kind of like off, and I was okay. But if it happened again, I would be like, I'm leaving. Like I'm really like crazy about that.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, that speaks to your perfectionistic background. Then I would
Yeah,
say. Um,
yeah.
well, but that that also says something really about that you care about what you're putting out there too. That you're
Mhm.
not just, oh, I'll get up there and I didn't rehearse enough with my band and my voice is kind of shot because I was partying
Nope.
last night. So but you're being super serious about what you do and what you put out there.
Super serious. And I think, of course, like I'm not playing guitar. My voice is my instrument. So it would be a rude to my band that have their own instruments, that's not their voices, to come on stage with my instrument and not treat it as well as they treat their instruments. So it would be really like an FU to them.
Yeah, see, that's a really mature way to approach it and a professional way to approach it. It's like I'm everyone's doing their part, and if I don't do my part, especially with my name on it, then that's really setting a huge, horrible
Totally.
example. And Ove, I'll ask the question. So, Alexia, how would you describe your music? That's probably the best way to ask the question.
Yeah. I would think my music is pop leaning. How do I describe it? I think eclectic, unique, pop leaning, funk, pop funk leaning, but just a really big how do you say it? I am like the importance of the groove is so important to me. Like I just have I'm so determined to make like every song have this like leaning. The groove is so important to me. Like you need to be feeling it in your body. So for me, whether it's a slow song or a more funky song, I will not write it unless it like makes you move. So I would describe my music as just like groove, but it doesn't mean that it's like funk, which it is. A lot of my like dancier ones are definitely like more funk, pop funk kind of sound, but it's just honest. And I think the influences of like Queen, Billy Joel, Bruno Mars, Dua Lipa, Remy Wolf, like it all is like Olivia Rodrigo, even like my like more singer songwriter. It's just like blends and creates something. And that's how I would describe my music: eclectic, unique, groovy, feeling. I know it's true. It's a lot. I'm still trying to figure out like, but that's all I can say. It's like I write music that makes you like move.
Yeah, well, and as you said, that it's something that you're a real stickler for melody, so that's huge in anything that you do. You've got an eclectic taste, so we're going to hear some songs that have a different style to them, but they're still under your umbrella, your name. So I guess, Ove, the best thing to do is to listen to the music, and then you can kind of make up whatever you want to call it because it's still all Alexia. So
that's what I tell everyone. Like at first I was always like, oh my gosh, like I need to have this like genre. And this producer told me, he goes, anything you sing is going to sound like they're going to tie it together, like always. And so it's true though, like even like seeing my set, like it was very like a lot of different songs, but it's all tied in together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know they've said the same thing about I'm thinking about like some guitar players that when they jump to a different instrument, that it still sounds like them because it's just the way they approach it. So the way you approach the songs that you write, it's still going to sound like you, regardless of what what genre kind of seems to fall in or subcategory it falls in. So that's exciting. And you mentioned that as you get ready to drop another single in January, and maybe a couple others, and get ready for an EP release. Is there any chance that we'll see a physical edition of that EP? I'm an old school fart here, so I'm just wondering if we're going to see a CD, vinyl, something that you can actually hang on to. Is it going to be strictly digital?
Vinyl would be incredible. I mean, that would be ideal. Yes, for sure. I would definitely do a vinyl. I actually think I know what my EP name will be. I'm a Gemini, and I think that's like my music is very Gemini, like how it's so eclectic. So possibly hinting at that. So I think it's gonna be called like side 1, side 2.
Okay, that's
or twins, something like that.
I'm a Gemini as well, so.
Wow.
And eclectic arts and eclectic music. So
that's funny.
I guess that's not a surprise.
A lot of artists are Geminis.
Yeah, and that's right. And Captain Blackwood, you are as well because we had the same birthday. So that's she sounds like a groovy chameleon. Yeah, she's really, really talented. I'm really excited over to hear more of her music to see just how diverse it gets. So it's really exciting when you have a new artist that is willing to express themselves any way that they feel fit, and it's not being stuck in one thing. It's like, this is what I feel like, this is what I expect from myself, so I'm putting it out there, and hopefully you like it. And like you said,
I like a groovy chameleon. I'm gonna start calling myself a groovy chameleon. I love that.
There you go. Ove's been a strong supporter of my channel, and he lives in Norway, so you can say
hello.
He's gosh,
that's awesome.
Isn't it like maybe what, 4? No, 3 in the morning
it's too
over
early.
there? It's really early over there. And Alexia, speaking of that, can you tell me a little bit more about your background? Because I believe that you were born overseas and then raised in New York. And what was early Alexia like?
Yeah, so I was born in Paris. My mom is French, well, Belgian French. And then my dad's Moroccan French, and they met in Paris. And I was born there. I moved when I was 5, and I grew up in the States in New York. So my life, all my family, all my cousins were in France. We would go a lot of times back and forth. So yeah, it was a very interesting childhood. I definitely have like a lot of Moroccan roots in terms of like my dad's music was always playing, and Moroccan music is beautiful, and he has an incredible voice. So it's like all like, and then my French roots, like French music. So yeah.
Okay, and does that mean you also speak some of those languages then?
So I don't speak Arabic because my dad mostly spoke French growing up since it was like colonized by France. So they speak French there. So I just speak French, but fluently. Yeah. So maybe I'll release something in French actually, but it's not like natural for me to write in French. So I think it would just maybe be like a feature or a co-write with a French artist would be cool.
Okay, that would be awesome. I've had the pleasure of interviewing a few musical artists from France
Oh, cool.
on the more metal side of things, symphonic
Oh,
metal and heavy metal things. And I think God, I hope I'm not forgetting somebody, but there's a couple of them that come to mind that are definitely from France. Um, but and then as we were kind of now here's my I guess perfect segue when you got into ballet, and then you mentioned that you had some injuries. Was ballet something that your parents had started you with, and you grew to love it? It was something that you wanted to do when you were a little kid, or how did you get involved?
yeah, I think every person, every girl goes to ballet class. I actually didn't like it at first. I thought it was too strict. But then when we moved to the States, I was enrolled in a ballet studio, and I don't know, I got obsessed. Like I was obsessed with the perfectionism of it, the hard work, like the grit. I just loved it. I loved being on the stage. So I grew up in Long Island, so in New York. And then I got really serious. I went to a really serious, like a summer camp for ballet, or it was like an art summer camp. They had a ballet program, and I think someone like recruited me. Was like, you should audition at this school in New York, the city. So it was like an hour commute, and I auditioned, and I got in, and it was like very intense, like 6 days a week, 4 hours every day. I was 10. And yeah, I did it till really seriously from 10 to like 17. I would go to ballet summer camps in Pennsylvania. I was obsessed with it. But it was not good for my mental health. I had like severe eating disorder, not caused by it, but it's like very common. So it just was not, yeah.
So it wasn't something that ended up being good for your health basically.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah, I've had, let's see, talked to a few professional ballet folks here from a local theater company, and then I've also talked to some that are with the Pacific Northwest Ballet's company as well. And I think the one thing that I definitely learned is that whole word of sacrifice, and that ballet dancers are like athletes. I mean, they have injuries,
Exactly.
they bust their butt every day, and sometimes more than you would think. I'm like you're saying hours for days on end, and people just kind
Oh,
of think like
they're
somehow,
crazy.
yeah, people kind of think somehow it just comes to people easy. Like no, 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 they put in the work big time, and when you see it, and just like they say for anyone who does it as a professional, that professional makes it difficult look easy, and there's a reason why, because they put so much time and so much sacrifice into things. And I know they talked about many of them once they were teenagers. They didn't really do a lot of the typical teenager things because they're in rehearsal. So when people are having fun,
Exactly.
yeah. Um,
Exactly. I was never I mean my best friends are from ballet. It was hard for me because I didn't have like super flexible feet. So in the end of the day, I knew I wasn't gonna like be professional, but I was obsessed with it. I loved it. It was my life. So quitting was like really difficult for me because I didn't want to say goodbye. I was forced to say goodbye.
That's always hard for
Yeah.
anything when it wasn't something where, yeah, you see that perfectly when you got to, when you choose to say goodbye to anything versus being forced to say it, then you're left with this void, and as you already described earlier in the interview. So, well, I'm really excited though that you have this music career that's going, and again, it just seems like you're going to be going from strength to strength from everything that you've
Thank
talked
you.
about. Yeah, and you've had a live performance under your belt now, and hopefully things continue to open up and improve out there, so you can just kind of do things when you want to do them instead of having to follow restrictions and can we do this and all these other kind of things that
Exactly.
every artist, yeah, is having to do. Maybe you can even get to a point of doing a West Coast tour, and don't forget to come up to Seattle, where I'm at.
I will definitely come to Seattle. You know what's funny is my top streams are from Seattle, like by a landslide.
Wow, I guess we have good
And I'm
taste.
like, who is listening to my songs 50,000 times? Is it you? Because it's weird. Like, it's crazy. Like Seattle I have a huge fan base in Seattle.
Well, that's awesome. And part of it, as we were talking about pre-show, as some of the people with your part of your team that works with you, I know who are originally from Seattle, so there might be a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, it could be that we've got a really eclectic scene up here for sure. That much I know because I'm definitely a part of it. So, but yeah, that's. Hey, if we're the hub for it and it spreads to Portland and San Francisco and LA and moves over to Phoenix and Dallas and all around the US and then all around the world, especially since you have so, like you said, you speak French fluently, then you can be up in Canada, over in France, obviously, and
yes,
watching it spread. That's a huge plus that you're bilingual. I'm barely lingual, so.
I couldn't figure out this word. Now I'm like that I was trying to say before, and it's annoying me.
Okay, and over you're a Sagittarius, I see. Okay, and you've been to Brussels. All right. Well, that's a lot. I have never been to any part of Europe ever, so I'm envious of you over there in Norway.
You have to go.
Yeah, there's many things on my list, and that's definitely one of them. So, and you mentioned that with that single coming out in January, and forgive me if you've already done this, is there going to be any full-blown music videos for any of the songs?
Yeah, Drop Down is having a music video. It's going to release in 2 weeks. So big music video, and then my next song is a music video as well.
Okay, cool. And so with the one that we get to premieres in 2 weeks for Drop Down, what can you tell of us without giving it away? Like, did you find a director to collaborate with? It was something that you worked with you and some people you already knew?
No, he was recommended to me. So he was recommended me by a colleague, like in music, and then so it was all new. I've never shot one. It's so tiring. I'd rather be on stage, and I'm just like not a huge like visual. I feel a lot more than I see. Like even if I sing, I close my like I'm not a hugely visual person. So I'll have to like it's hard for me to come up with concepts, to be honest. Something I need to work on.
Okay, when you're talking about, and you've mentioned it several times, that you always want to feel your music. You want to have that has to be there. The melody has to be there. There was another music artist that I talked to who's actually based down in Los Angeles who had done a series of concerts where the attendees were given blindfolds when they came in. So when they sat there, they had no visual. They had to listen.
Like the voice.
They had to do the auditory thing and just listen to it and take away what they're looking at. And that might be something you might want to consider.
That is really cool. That's a great idea. I don't want to steal it from them though.
Well, you can just say you heard it from me. But yeah, when you're saying that you definitely aren't looking at the visual isn't maybe the priority yet, but I just thought it was a really interesting concept when I saw a still picture of her at a concert.
Yeah.
Like, why are all the guests wearing blindfolds? And then she explained it to me. It's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and Captain Blackwood, and when we all have millions of dollars, we can do a world tour. Okay. Hopefully that day comes soon. That'd be nice. But in the meantime, we do the best with what we can with what we got. So, Alexia, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm looking forward to seeing the video for Drop Down in 2 weeks, and then the new song in January. And in the meantime, I would love to find a time to maybe it is when that third single comes out in January, we can reconnect and talk about that and where things are at that point.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all who came and saw me speak.
Awesome. Well, stay safe down there in California, and have a good night. And yeah, I hope to get a chance to talk to you sooner than later.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Bye.